Hey everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Anirudh. I've been lurking around in PESOS for about a year and a half. So today we're going to try some a kind of new format of meet. This is not exactly a meetup. It's more of like an interactive live coding session. So like when I began coding, one of the things that I found hardest or most daunting was starting a project from scratch. Since I learned programming only when I joined engineering, I didn't really have much under my belt in terms of projects, and I did not know how exactly to approach, starting a project. Um, that's kind of odd. Like a lot of people find contributing to existing code hard. I found that a lot easier than like starting a project from scratch. So that's what we're going to be doing in hopefully what will be a reasonably long series of live coding streams. I'd like to develop. So what we're going to do is we're going to develop forms application. So for those of you who have been around probably in the other meetups and maybe on Slack, I don't remember like exactly where, but I've brought it up a couple of times since we use like Google Forms for most of our feedback and stuff. I thought it'd be a nice idea to have an open source forms application to use at least internally, and hopefully if it becomes good enough, make it a proper maintained project and um, like open source it for people to use. Um, there are a few open source forms solutions. A lot of the big ones, I think type forms and stuff are actually open source, but they're kind of complicated, right? They're not like simple one file or one library kind of thing. They're like they provide a lot of features which might not be necessary for a lot of the end users. So I want to kind of cut out all that stuff and get just the basic necessities. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. um, I don't Okay, yeah, let me just share my screen. And all right, is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, cool, cool. Right. So yeah, I have a few notes for what I want to do today, since I kind of end up rambling if I don't have notes. um, right, introduce the stream and how it progresses. Right, the first thing, I hope to have a lot more interaction than the regular meetups that we have. So I know that most of our meetups have been more of an kind of instructive kind of sessions, where someone's kind of walking you through some concept or something like that. So here I want it to be a lot more interactive, mainly because I'm not used to coding on live stream and I can't really code for 1 hour straight. So I'm relying on people asking questions and stuff to fill up the rest of the time. So yeah, that brings to the second point. I want to ask lots of questions. It can be either funny questions or it can be like questions that I need to answer. And as I said, yeah, I need something to fill in the a blank space. I'm not used to this. This is really new, and as I mean, like it's pretty obvious that coding live is kind of um, there are obviously going to be issues. That's a good thing because you kind of see that a lot of tutorials and stuff that you see online, they just keep going without any issues, and you think that that's how development needs to be. I'm just going to show you that that's not how development is going to be. There are going to be a lot of issues. There are going to be a lot of browsing. I'm going to show you everything that I'm doing from scratch, and yeah, so you get an idea of how that works. Right. The second thing, introduce the idea. Right. So yeah, the idea is basically a forms application. I have that somewhere here. Right. It's basically a forms application. The main feature that I found lacking in most other form applications, and what I want in this forms application, is to be able to create a form using some sort of text-based description. So I thought JSON is a good idea, but we're kind of work it out as we go through the project using feedback and like what works and what doesn't. Right now I'm just thinking JSON. So you should be able to like create a form out of some sort of JSON structure and send it to the API endpoint to create the form. That's what I'm thinking. No login use tokens. Yeah, I don't really know how secure this is, but I think having no user data on the application, it both reduces the storage cost for hosting as well as makes it a little more secure in terms of not having access to user data. I don't really know how secure the form itself will be. We'll figure that out as we go. Export data in programmer friendly formats. Yeah, this is another thing. I'm not 100% sure, but at least by default Google Forms and stuff, they just export to like a Google Sheets, right? Which is not really programmer friendly if you want to perform some sort of analysis using Python or something on that data. So JSON, CSV, maybe some other formats, whatever is useful, we'll figure that out as we go. Front end to graphically create forms. Yeah, so what I'm planning is we're going to sort of create a separate front end and a back end. So it's the back end is just going to be like an API, and the front end will do the rendering, so that it both allows people to like as I said, create a JSON form on some sort of text editor and send it to the API. And the second thing is it allows people to make front ends that might be better aesthetically, or it might be more tailored to their specific use case, just using the backend, just using the API and creating a front end out of that. MongoDB for form storage. Yeah, all these are like just some thoughts that I put down. I thought MongoDB might be good because JSON, right? The forms. I thought JSON is a good idea. That's MongoDB might be good to store the forms. Enforce time constraints on, just to make sure that forms don't stick around for too long or data doesn't stick around for too long. Enforce some sort of time constraint on like how long the form can be active and how long the responses are going to be stored, something like that. Email, yeah, we'll get to this like as we go. We're not really going to do any of this today, but this is the basic idea of what I'm thinking needs to be implemented in this application. And yeah, as we develop and as we um, go through and as I get feedback, we'll revise that and see like what can be improved and what can be added, what can be removed, stuff like that. Yeah, so Node, probably React for the front end. I mean, like, um, this can be our first interaction. What do you guys think about the technology that I've thought? So, like, I thought Node and React, Node might be good because I thought JSON is what we're going to be using for the forms. Python also has a JSON library, so we can use something like Fast API or something. I'm perfectly fine doing it either way. So, feedback.
Not much of feedback, but I mean, it looks good to me.
Ah, okay,
What
cool.
like what all types of questions are you trying to support for now, like in your extremely prototyped version or whatever that you'll begin with?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought of it too much, but probably the first thing would be like single line, small, short answer questions. Then probably something like MCQs and long answers. So I think those are the three basic things, and from there we can think about like what more to implement it.
I had a question. So do we like really need to use React for the prototype? Can't we just use plain vanilla JavaScript or something for this?
Yeah, sure, we can. I'm just thinking about what might be nice to see on stream. That's it.
Okay.
We don't need to use React at all. And like, I'm not even going to touch the front end for at least until the back end is like ready. So that's a decision a little bit down the road. But yeah, vanilla JS is definitely a good idea. So that we get a feel of, does Django support MongoDB? So Python in general, I think it has a MongoDB driver, and Django probably also has some sort of connector because it has connectors for other databases. I'm not 100% sure about MongoDB, but it probably has something because it's so widely used. All right. There's that. So yeah, the other thing is once we finish, we can probably see how deployment works, because that's another thing that like was pretty confusing for me in the beginning. Stick with Node, the more documentation. Yeah, sure. Yeah, especially for Mongo, I think Node is probably what's most used, so probably makes it a lot easier for us. Um, and yeah, so maybe a deployment, Docker-based deployment, probably another thing that would be nice to see and see how it works and stuff. Right. Discuss choice of language and frameworks. We kind of did that just now. Feel free to like keep posting your like whatever your thoughts are as the stream progresses. um, Create a basic API. Okay, yeah, so this is where this is what I plan to do today at least. Create a basic API structure and editor tooling, and discuss and create a JSON structure for the form. Right. So let's just start off with the first thing. Create a basic API structure. Mm, right. So what I'm thinking. Okay, wait. Before that, let's just like create the project. So I'm in my local projects directory. So let's just you know what? Let someone come up with a good name for this. License. I haven't really thought about it. Probably we can go with MIT right now. I'm not really going to make it like completely open source until it reaches a good stage. So probably then we can think about the license. But probably MIT. I don't really care about people using it however they want. Right. Someone come up with a good name for this application. Like I want to start off with the name.
Yeah, I have no ideas. Probably, I don't know, maybe like the way I think of naming things, and I'm bad at naming things, so maybe you shouldn't take advice from me, but I try to think of like the core philosophy and then pick some name from it. And if I can't think of anything, I just like pick like a totally random name that has nothing to do with the project.
I was gonna just call it Forms app, and then I thought that's gonna be really bad. But um, for creative pun. Yeah, Kunal. I was just gonna do that, but I think I've done that a little too much, and I don't want a very generic name. Forminator. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with Forminator for now. uh, um, okay, right. So we have Forminator. It's a Git project now. I just create two folders for front end and back end. Right. So now we're just going to be working in the backend. Right. So the first thing, probably npm init. I don't really want to deal with all this stuff, so I'll just set the defaults. Name backend. Yeah, seems fine. Scripts, I'll probably get to that later. So yeah, probably first thing is we're going to be using Express for the thing. So right. So we have installed Express. Before I get started with the project itself, I want to set up my editor tooling. This is something that I'm unfortunately good at. Making a lot of customizations to work well with my editor. I might not spend a lot of time programming, but I do spend a lot of time getting my editor configuration right. And if you guys know it, it's pretty helpful. So the two things I want to set up are Eslint and Prettier. Eslint is basically it has some rules to enforce styling and stuff. And Prettier basically it's sort of like an auto formatter for JavaScript. And they have a bit of overlap, so there are some plugins to like make them work well together. So the first thing is I use Vim, and like I have some plugins to use auto formatters and stuff, and I have like Prettier and all set up over there. There's just a couple of things to make it work well with the current project. Um, I have it open somewhere over here. I think recipe. I not this one maybe. Yeah. Okay. Right. Um, let's see what all I need. I'm not really going to touch the Prettier configuration because I'm usually like fine with all the defaults that it has. Um, right. Yeah. These are some of the things I'll probably need. Eslint config Prettier. This disables Eslint's formatting rules and defers that concern to Prettier. Yeah. This is something that I'll need because I don't want Eslint touching formatting. I only want it to give me errors. Eslint plugin Prettier. Check for violations of Prettier rules and throw. I don't really want this because I'm anyway going to format it, so I don't really care about when it's not formatted correctly. Eslint config Airbnb. Airbnb is preferred coding style and standards. Yeah, I think I'm going to use this because I've used it before and it's a pretty good standard. So yeah, let me just copy this over. I do not have a plugin. Extends Airbnb, that's fine. Extends hooks, right? Extends Prettier, that's fine. Um, I do not want Prettier to throw errors. Is it? Yeah, I think that's all we need right now. And I need to install the relevant stuff. So for those of you who don't know, save dev basically it puts it in a it puts these packages in a separate section in the package.json, so that like when you're installing applications for production from that, you don't really need this stuff, right? You don't need the editor tooling and stuff, so you can avoid installing that. um, Excellent. Config here and excellent config BNB. That should be right. Meanwhile, let's just check if I have questions. Too many tabs. This is kind of why I didn't really want to share my entire screen, because my Firefox has a lot of tabs. I just like open up stuff that I want to read later and I don't end up reading them later, so I just leave it open. And another thing is that's the reason I'm using Meet on another browser, because the number of tabs open, it kind of crashes when I share my screen. Right. Requires a P. Okay, looks like I need to locally install Eslint as well. I do have a global installation, but probably right. While this happens, um, let's just think about what endpoints we need on the API. So I'm thinking, yeah, we need probably one to let me just open up my notes and start off. API endpoints. What all do we need? Um, we need a create endpoint, create or add something like that. To create a new form. I just realized this is kind of like a CRUD application, right? So create is nothing but just store it in a database and um, create a new form. And what else would we need to do? Okay, so since this is gonna this thought was we can have a one-time token for each form that expires after some time. So create a new form, save the form, and create the associated token, right? Um, or I'm thinking, do we really need endpoints, or can we just have different HTTP verbs on the same endpoint? I don't really know. Does anyone have like experience with that? I'm thinking like we don't need multiple endpoints. Probably we need like a variable endpoint because so once there's a token associated with it, so slash token should return it, right? So this is basically like URL slash token, um, return the form linked to the token in like JSON format, right? That would be one thing. What else? We probably don't need like a slash create. Um, maybe multiple endpoints seems better. Um, yeah, it does seem better. I can't think of a logical way of categorizing them. So like, should I have like a slash create slash delete something like that, or like just have like one endpoint and like have HTTP verbs like post delete on that endpoint to create and delete the forms. Forms that have an expiration seem cool. Yeah, that was something that I felt was lacking in a lot of solutions, and in the end it kind of makes it a lot lighter for someone who's hosting, because you don't have to indefinitely store the data. The onus is on the user to like collect their data within the expiration, and at the same time it's a little more secure because you don't have old data lying around for too long. Hmm. Fine, for now I'll just go with like multiple endpoint and we'll see as it goes. Slash delete slash token, uh, delete the form and associated responses. Okay, yeah, fine. Return, delete the form and associated responses to the token. And I'm also thinking we need one endpoint to like get the responses. So slash responses slash token responses for the form associated to the token. And slash responses slash delete, I guess. No, token slash delete. Okay, this is interesting. So probably instead of a slash token to, properly categorize it, we can do something like a slash form slash create slash form slash token would return that form. Delete. Okay, I think now the question is a little more pertinent on whether to use different endpoints or um, okay. Let me just go to the questions. If you have a single endpoint, the front end will need more work. Really, how? I mean, like, it's just a matter of choosing the right HTTP verb to the same endpoint, right? There would be two kinds of request slash token, one to fetch form info and one to create an entry. Yeah, that's the basic question I'm asking. So should I create one endpoint with two different kinds of requests or like two different endpoints? That's the question I'm asking. Um, I have a little good to go with the least complex implementation, having the least maintenance. That's the thing. I don't really know which one would have the least. It's not, I think it's not very restful to like have different endpoints for each operation, because in the end, so what would be happening is you're kind of making get requests to each of those endpoints. So if I have like a form slash token slash delete, making a get request to that endpoint would like delete. So probably not a great idea. You know what, like, I'm just going to make it like very restful, and like we're just going to have a form slash token. So form slash create creates a new form. um wait, that's all. Okay. Form slash, why is this not coming up over here? Okay, I think the angle bracket notation like takes it as a URL. Right, so form slash token returns the form, that is if you make a get request. So that, so get request would return the form linked to that. um a post request, does it make sense? I don't think a post request really makes sense. um Delete request, delete the form. And I think when you delete a form, it makes sense to delete its responses also. So delete form and responses, right? Um, and then we have responses slash token. So again, same thing over here. So get request, get the responses for the form. Post here makes sense because you can like create a response using JSON again to that, to the form associated with that. So create a new response. Uh, um, would delete make sense? I mean, like, okay, one second, questions. A JWT while editing the form and a string token to share the form. Um, Okay, I haven't really thought of JWT for editing the form. So basically, yeah, for front-end authentication, right? To like restrict access to the API. I didn't really think about that. Yeah. The second part, yeah, that's what I thought. A string token to share the form and basically access the form data. JWT haven't really thought, but yeah, that seems like a good idea. Like if I don't have login, probably JWT is a good way to authenticate. Post request at slash form slash token to submit a response. Post request, I'm making it at slash response slash token. I think that makes a little more sense since we already have a response endpoint. Yeah, so my question was, is a delete request, like, does it make sense? So what it would probably do is like delete all the responses. Would it be possible to summarize what a JWT is? I mean, I'm not the best person to explain this, but it basically stands for a JavaScript web token. So what it does is it basically it's you can think of it like it's like a cookie, not exactly, like, don't quote me on this, it's probably a horrible explanation, but it basically it's like it's a way to like communicate between the server and the client. um, like it's another way to communicate between the server and the client. The JWT basically it has certain fields which allow the server to like know when it was created and like when it expires and stuff like that. And the basic advantage is like so for example, for like having expiring tokens, what you would normally do is you just create a random string or something like that, and you put it in a database and you put the creation time in your database, and like then you need to validate every time whether the creation time, I mean rather the expiry time has been reached or something like that. So you need to keep making database accesses. Whereas the JWT, it has that value in the token itself. So you just need to, like, the token basically has all the information you need to validate the response. That's the advantage. I mean, like, I had read that there are some security concerns when you use JWTs in certain ways. So I need to look into that before we use it. But yeah, that's what it's basically used for. And probably for this use case, authentication of APIs, that's where JWTs are like most used. So that would be a good use case for that. Yeah. So yeah, coming back to my question. So if I have a delete verb at like slash response slash token, what that would probably do is delete all the responses for that form. But like, do you think that's a valid use case? Would someone want to delete just the responses and not the form itself? Probably not. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So probably what makes more sense is like something like a delete slash IDs to delete a single response, right? Um, and here I think a put request makes sense to, modify the form. Um, Probably here also. Put slash ID. Modify a response, create a new response, and delete a single response. Mm, Anything else off the top of your heads? How will we authenticate the put request for modifying the form? Right. Correct. That is something that we need to think about. How do we authenticate that the person generating the put request is the same person who created the response? Hmm. It doesn't make sense to have like one-time tokens for responses. You could send. Okay, wait. I think I'm a little behind. Maybe you could export the form as JSON. Um, I mean, like, so what I'm thinking is the form itself is going to exist as JSON. So, for example, when you're rendering the form, you're just going to take the JSON, format of the form and render it based on that. And when you're collecting responses also, it's so the form is going to exist as JSON itself. So I don't know if um, that answers your question. So I don't know what you meant by export over there, but like I want the form to exist as JSON itself. How will we yeah, this is the question. We need to think about how um, so that they could upload the same form if they wanted to. Oh yeah, okay, I understand what you mean. So get the JSON representation of the form. Yeah, that could be done. What if they just want to make a new form which is quite similar to the existing one, adding only slight modifications? In that case, to delete all the responses and only edit the existing form rather than creating a new form. Hmm. True. But at the same time, since the form exists as JSON, all you would have to do is like copy the JSON, delete the form, and like. But yeah, it might be a valid use case. I mean, like I think there's no harm in just having the endpoint for now. I'll put it into my notes. Um, yeah, we could send a mail with the token as a query parameter that redirects the web app. Um, but that's kind of like handling authentication on the front end, right? Which is kind of not secure, I think. Most forms are, but not the form only, because situations where you want to reset a form. Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, I have put that down in my notes so that we create that endpoint. Um, we send a token as a parameter, and this token is then sent to the backend for authentication. Hmm. Right. So then you would. So what you're suggesting is we have one token for each response, right? So for example, if you want someone to respond to your form, you would give them a token, and that response is associated with that token. So all modifications and stuff happen through that. That's what you're saying. Yeah, that seems like a reasonable idea. That might increase the amount of data we need to store and stuff. Um, I mean, yeah, I think that's a valid solution. That's something that we can work. So probably I just put that on as another note. Oops. Um, Create a unique token for each response. Right. Hmm. Okay. I think that's good. Preview mail model can be used instead of setting up an email client for dev. Okay, I will look into that. Preview mail. Cool. Um, Now that's sorted, and I think um, requires a pair of Eslint plugin import. Oh wait, I think the Airbnb config was for a React application. Uh, did I forget? I think no. I think I was using this in a React project. That is not what I want. It wants ESLint. Yeah, it wants JSX and stuff. Okay, I think yeah, I was using something called standard. I think let me just check. Um, Oops. Yes, I think this is what I want. I haven't really worked with Node recently, so I don't remember the tooling that I set up. Hmm. Eslint config standard, does it have like dependencies? Eslint config, Eslint plugin standard, plugin promise, plugin import, plugin node. Yeah, this is probably what I want. Right. Uh, I do not want this anymore. Um, I'm going to use a standard configuration. Plugin standard is probably just going to highlight errors which don't. Um, Plugin promise, probably, yeah, for promises. Plugin import, plugin node, yeah, seems fine. Oops. It's worth putting in the time to make form templates. Yeah, form templates, yeah, we can probably do that. I mean, yeah, that's still a bit down the road. So today, at least I want to like, create a sort of basic JSON structure for how a form would look. And once we have a good idea of how our forms look and like what features they support, then we can make form templates for like, you know, common applications, like maybe like a completely MCQ kind of thing or something like that. I think my internet, no, yeah, seems fine. Uh, yeah, seems fine. Yeah, right. So let us start writing the API now. Um, I'm just going to use index.js because that's standard. Yes. Mm, right, I think Node has that require syntax, right? I don't remember exactly. I had that open somewhere. Yeah, require. Varix, yeah, right. I think I can make it a const. Um, and yeah, so I'll just create a listener. 70% of coding is copying and pasting effectively. App.listen port 3000 and so before I run this, we'll probably just create a dummy endpoint just to check. I think it's app.get or something. Yeah, app.get URL. Okay, let me just copy this over, and then we'll figure out what. It takes. Okay, yeah, I remember now. It can take in like 2 or 3 parameters. Rest.json. I don't really want JSON. Okay, I just want like text. Let's find the Express.js documentation. I think routing is what we need. Yeah. Rest of it. Right. So now we can like node index.js, which is server running on port 3000, and it's probably safer for me to test on another browser because I don't know when this will crash. So if I go to localhost 3000, we have an API. Awesome. So we have the basic setup done. I think not having dark mode is probably a good idea. Cool. We have an API. Now, let me just create like a dummy API for all the endpoints that we just discussed. So this is going to be a bit of copying and pasting, a little boring, I guess. I think there's a way to chain this stuff, but I don't remember. So uh, okay, so what are the endpoints we discussed? We want /form/create. That's what that would do. /form/token. I do not remember how to get variables from the URL. So time to Google. Um, I think I had it open somewhere here, but I don't remember. Yeah, variable in how to get a URL parameter in Express is what I want. Hmm. Request.parameters, and you use a colon over there. Cool. This is probably what we need. So form/colon. Uh, let's call it form token. Uh, returns the form with the token. Uh, yeah, I know string concatenation is not the best, but yeah, this is what we want. Now I just copy this because we have a few more to that same endpoint. Um, we have a get request, we have a put request, and we have a delete request. So um, right. Uh, what's the next endpoint? We have responses/token. Just copy this part. I need not have copied all this actually. Anyway, uh, let me show you some editor tricks. I'm gonna flex my Vim. Um, oops. Yeah, I want to replace that with Yeah, that's it. Um, responses slash form token. Yeah, it would still be form token. Um, returns the responses for form with that token. Uh, we have a we have a post. Which would delete all responses for the form with that token. Mm, what do we also have? Put slash id and delete slash id. Modify a response, right? Uh, so this would be a put request. Uh, slash form token slash we have another one over here. So that would be sid. And this would modify response with params dot form id. No, sorry, res id. It would just delete that response. Um, now to test this, I am going to use Postman, which I haven't used for a long time, so I hope I still remember how to use it. Oops, index.js. Right. So we can like test the get request trivially. We don't have anything here, so it should, yeah, cannot get slash because we haven't defined anything for that. So if we go to like slash for form slash create, okay, we can't get it. Do we define a post request for that? That's hard. App.get, uh, that's hard. Oops, I did not start. Cannot get form slash create. Was it? Oh, sorry, that is form slash create. Yeah, common issues for developers. Created a form. Yeah, that works. Let me just pause and look for questions. I think I haven't done that in a bit of time. Res.send. Oh, okay, yeah, that was okay. Cool. Um, okay, so let me just open up Postman. What do I have on these workspaces? Uh, haven't used this in a while. Taking a bit of time to start up. Okay, right. So I want to send it to localhost slash 3000 slash form slash create. No keys, no parameters, and let me just click maximize this. If I send it, you can see that I'm getting a response, created a form. So similarly, I can just test most all the other endpoints. So if I say like form/1, return the form with token 1, right? 123, it should say return the form with token 123. That works. What else? Put and delete. Let us try put request. Modifies the form with token 123. Works. Delete. Deletes the form. Cool. Um, responses/form token. So the delete deletes all responses. Works. Get returns the responses, right? Post creating a response. Yes. Um, let's try the one with res ID as well. Put and delete, right? So /123/456. Put modifies response with ID 456. Yeah, that's fine. And delete should say pretty much the same thing. Oh, cannot delete. Um, did I make a mistake? Oop, I have the wrong thing over here. Right, that should work. There we go. Right. So the basic API is working now, and it's 8:03, which is I think a little late. So let's work on the uh, form structure in the next stream. Um, what else? Questions? Maybe install Node1. Yeah, Node1. I thought I'll just set up next time. I can start off the session with Node1. And Postman is based in Indiranagar. Oh, I did not know that. That's interesting. It's like a live reload. Yeah, that is pretty much what Node1 is. I thought of setting it up this time, but I thought it would be a little too much of like, tooling configuration and I think that's about it for today in terms of coding. Open for questions, anyone, anything. What's that note-taking app? It looks like it's called Joplin. It's an open source note-taking application, and it's really cool. It even has like Android and like iOS apps, so like you can sync your notes across everything, and it's really good. Notes using Markdown, and like you can link images and all that good stuff. Fill the form first. Yes, please fill the form. We want to know like how effective this session was. Could we send it again? Guys, please send the response URL again. Also, fun fact: Joplin was the organization that I tried to apply for this year's GSOC. I got in a few contributions, but like there were a couple of really good guys, so I didn't get in. Oh, okay. I forgot the most important thing. I haven't pushed this to GitHub yet. So, if you guys are watching, let me just do that. I mean, you guys probably know this by now, but just for posterity's sake, let me just finish that up. My network connection is looking. I was, kind of debating whether I should use it or not. In the end, I thought, it does a lot of magic behind the scenes. So I thought, doing it from scratch might be nice. Same thing for Create React app actually. It does a lot of magic, and the issue with that is it's really good, but you need to know beforehand what it's doing. So if you learn React by doing Create React app, you don't really learn anything. You just learn what's supposed to go where, but you don't know how it works behind the scenes. So for my fourth sem web frameworks project, I ended up we started out with Create React app, and then we just deleted the whole thing and made a custom Webpack config and stuff, which was a real pain, but at least I know how Webpack works now, or at least a little bit. Okay, now that this is open, let us create a new repository. Where do I create a new repository? That's hard. Okay, this is embarrassing. Where is my? Okay, this is the one. Okay. Ah, haven't Forminator. Description and open source forms. Oops, what happened? Okay. Um, yeah, leave it on public. Doesn't matter. Add a README. Not really. Not really. Disable projects and wikis for now. Yeah, I don't really need this for now. Create repository. We'll work through all this stuff in the coming sessions. We don't really have enough files for a git ignore right now, and we don't really have anything working for a readme also, but we'll do all that stuff. But yeah, SSH. Okay, and the classic initial commit, probably the most overused commit message ever. Oops. Yeah. Missed something. Love the name. Thank you, mother. Literally came up in like 30 seconds. Yeah. I mean, like, I was just thinking of puns on the word form, and that was the first thing that popped up. Reminds me of Doofenshmirtz. Hopefully, hopefully the application's as creative as he was. And despite that, he settled on the name Grover. Cool. It is now on GitHub if any of you want to see what little work we've done. Soon it will be a lot more. But yeah, that's it. So guys, we're done with the form. You can leave. Thanks for attending. Hope you had fun. Uh, and please let us know in the form how well this session went so that we can plan similar sessions if you liked it, plan something else if you didn't.